Hey everyone, this is Gio from Rebalancing Health, and today I'm going to show you, as I promised you a couple of weeks ago, some more exercises for your abdominal wall. And I'm going to start from the lower abdominal. The reason why I'm going to start from the lower abdominal is because if we're going to isolate before integrate, we should always start from the lower abdominal. So the reason why I isolating is because I explain you all through all this video. I explain you the importance and of isolating to then integrating in a hierarchical order to make sure that the muscle are working properly in sync together as a kinetic chain. So the lower abdominal. Well, I start from the abdominal. The abdominal muscle, for instance, the rectus abdominis has, why is it really important for stabilization during movement? Is because it has 8 sources of innervation, uh, which are coming from, is a double innervation actually, and it comes from this all the way from T6, T5, T6, all the way to T11 and T12. So is T5 and T6, T7 and T8, T9 and T10, and T11 and T12. So they 8 sources of innervation. The reason again is because it's got a lot work to do. It's got a lot of information coming in, and therefore from the innervation, the innervation are coming from the spine outward. So all of those message, the innervation transport message to the muscle, to the organ, and so on, and backwards as well. So the reason why it's got so many innervation is because it needs a lot of information. It needs to stabilize the trunk during movement. So that's for the rectus abdominis. Another one, for instance, is the oblique. The oblique muscle, which are the external and internal oblique, are innervated from T7 all the way to T12. And again, that's the reason why. Forward more, for instance, those 2 muscles that I just mentioned, the rectus abdominis and the external oblique, in this case, are forming the lower fiber of the rectus abdominis and the external oblique. They consider us to be the lower abdominal. So those fibers that from the external oblique, they attach right here on the iliac crest on one side of your pelvis, and the rectus abdominis right here on the pelvis, on the iliac crest of your pelvis. So these lower fiber for this muscle, they work together to stabilize the pelvis, however, the base of the trunk. And how did they do that, and why they consider it to be lower abdominal is because they are primarily innervated underneath L1 by 2 nerves underneath the umbilicus, by 2 nerves that are coming from L1, which is the last lumbar vertebra before your sacrum. So those 2 nerves are the ilioinguinal and the iliohypogastric nerve. and they feed into the lower fiber of these two muscles, and they help to stabilize the trunk and the pelvis. What do they do to stabilize the pelvis during movement is like counterbalance the string of the pelvis. If you imagine, if I'm stringing my legs like this is my pelvis, and I'm walking and I'm swinging my legs like that. If the lower abdominal doesn't counterbalance the pull of the psoas of the hamstring, the lower abdominal will go with the muscle, and the pelvis to be like this will put a lot of pressure on your lumbar spine, and that's where a lot of lumbar injury, lower back pain, they're coming from, because there is not activation to stabilize the pelvis during movement. So that's how important it is. If you see a runner, for instance, you will notice, if you look at runner from the back and he doesn't have a good stabilization and he doesn't have activation of the lower abdominal, you will see striation in the multifidus muscle, which is a muscle of your back. So on the lower back, you will see striation every time he swing the leg. You will see striation over there, and that means that the lower ab, they're not counterbalancing the pull of those leg muscles that they attach to the pelvis and to the spine. So that's how important it is. So now talking about the lower abdominal, which is the exercises that I'm going to show you today, because progressively we're going to go then to the oblique and then the upper abdominal. So when we isolating, we should train the lower abdominal first. And the reason why is because they require a greater amount of coordination, as I said, during movement. So they require a lot of energy and stabilization. So if you train the lower abdominal first instead of lower abdominal last, when you train them separately, you will tire the other two major abdominal muscle, which are the oblique and the rectus abdominis and the upper abdominis, and therefore there will be less energy to then stabilize and create a good result for your lower abdominal. So you should train lower abdominal, oblique, and then upper abdominal if you isolate. And once you moved from the phase of isolation, which means that we're going for a slow tempo with long repetition, that setting is, we use that setting for retrain those muscles to activate, to be active when we move. Once we pass that phase, then the all abdominals muscle, they actually they have a higher percentage of fast twitching fiber, up to 55% of the fast twitching fiber, that which means that they suited more for explosive movement. And again, they stabilizer, but they also explosive. There is a lot to do with the oblique muscle when you're throwing something. When you do an explosive movement. So once you move from the reconditioning phase and you're moving into the next phase, which is your general training routine, You want to train those muscles with fast tempo, however, speed, and a faster speed of execution of the movement, and lower rep and a lower set with higher weight. However, if you can add weight on some of those exercises, those muscles, they respond much better to those kind of settings. You will get much more out of it. Yeah, that's it. I will show you three example of exercises. Again, Swiss ball, great tool. You can use it in different for a lot of exercises, not only abdominal exercises. You can do squats on it. You can do push up on it. Heaps of stuff. Lunges. You can really a really great tool. So I'm gonna do three. One is gonna be on a bench, which is a skateboard for me because I didn't have a gym bench, but that doesn't matter because I will show you that what people do that is not correct when they practicing these exercises, however, for the abdominal wall. One important things is to, for instance, from the bench, to have a good base of support. I will use this pole over here that are actually two beam over here where I can hold myself, and I will get my spine. I will bend my legs and bring it up until I feel that the spine, my lumbar spine, is start to flatten. That's the point where I want to start my my movement for my lower abdominal. The reason why is because the lower abdominal has only 10% of flexion. So if I flex if I flex too much and therefore I flatten my spine too much, I will take away the work of the lower abdominal. And other things, once I get to that point, I will lock in my legs and move only the pelvis. My leg won't move anymore. The reason why for that is because as soon as I start moving my legs, then it start to becoming hip flexor exercise. I start to use as well my hip flexor, and that is not what I wanted to do. Not in this case. If I want to train and integrate hip flexor, trunk flexor, neck flexor, I can use that, but that's not the case. Right now, we isolating the lower abdominal. Same things for the Swiss ball. I get in my position, I tilting or flexing my legs up until I feel my spine to just start inflating, and then I go in from there. And from there, I come back, and when I come back, how soon I touch the ball, I stop. Until how soon my sacrum touch the ball, I stop. That's the point where I want to stop. Again, if I go into low, I start recruiting my hip flexor, and that's not what I want to do. Another important things for the ball, when I lay on the ball, more closer the ball is to my shoulder, and there is more recruitment of the lower abdominal because the lever arm increases, so there is more recruitment of and vice versa. If I move the ball closer to my pelvis, there is more stability at the pelvis, and therefore there is not the need there is not that much stress on the lower abdominal. Okay, so I'm gonna go from here in the start, and I'm gonna position myself down on the bench. If you have a bench, gym bench, that's great. Otherwise, you can use something else. Always make sure that it's secure, that it's stable, and doesn't go anywhere. I put some wood to stop it to wiggle and to go in anywhere. So from here, I lay down, I reach back, right? Before I forget, I was about to forget something. When you do it, when you're coming up with the legs, don't go all pass over your head, because that will put a lot of stress on your neck, and eventually, if you keep doing that, that will give you some injury at your neck. So just stop before you will see it when I do it myself, and yeah, just practice. Okay, so from here, I bring my legs up, and right here I stop because I feel my spine is about to start flattening. So from here, I put the tongues on the roof of the mouth, and this one is for the bench. Now we'll move it to the Swiss ball. Move away my fake bench, homemade bench, PUI bench. Now we'll move it to the Swiss ball. I will have the Swiss ball pretty much neutral between my shoulder and my pelvis, and yes. My recording device over here. Head on the ball, hands on the roof of the mouth. Bring up your legs, and from here, so this is for the Swiss ball, and then I'm gonna do hanging leg raises on the chin-up bar over here. Principle for the chin-up bar: when you bringing down your legs, you gotta stop. You gotta stop the leg about at this height. However, you're gonna stop the pelvis about at this height. Don't go lower, because again, otherwise you start recruiting your hip flexor. You put in a, you will notice. I will show you. I can show you on like this. So if I do it like this, and I let my legs go lower, you can see that the curvature of my lumbar spine increase, and that's because the psoas that attach it to from L4, L5, yeah, for all the lumbar spine it starts to pull on the lumbar spine, because X is a flexor, but in that case it will extend because attach it to your attach internally to your femur. And so how soon you start bending down, the attach internally to the femur, goes through the pelvis and attaches to your lumbar spine. So as soon as you start putting down the femur, in this case, it starts to pull on the lumbar spine. So from here, bring up my legs about this height. And yeah, that's it. Game is done. Keep watching me. Keep follow me on YouTube. I hope you enjoy my video. I hope you get some good information and good value from my video. This is Gio from Rebalance.